Hey guys, welcome to the Homegrown Hopes podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin Etheridge, and I'm so thankful that you're joining me today. I have actually really grown to love my little podcast time here. I was pretty anxious when I started this because I don't love the sound of my own voice, and also, as you heard in many episodes past, just don't know how qualified I am to tell anyone about anything. I am just sharing my life experiences, and today, I thought I would talk about a topic that I get asked about quite a bit, and that's homeschooling. If you felt the pull to slow down, to create and cultivate a more homegrown life that's simple and fulfilling, and to truly enjoy the magic of ordinary days, then friend, you found your place. I'm Caitlin. I'm a barefoot, Blue Ridge, homegrown mama, and this is the Homegrown Hopes podcast. We'll chat about everything from gardening and scratch cooking to homeschooling and motherhood. With some sarcasm sprinkled in, of course, because I am my daddy's daughter and Lord knows I'm fluent in that. Just know that whatever it is we're discussing, I am by no means an expert, and I'll never claim to be. I'm just sharing my experiences, the good and the bad, and making the most of the little moments in between. I'm so excited you're here, and so humbled that you've chosen to follow along and hopefully join me in cultivating our homegrown hopes. And I feel like this is a really big one to unpack because there are so many different learning styles and family dynamics and reasons for homeschooling, and just it's so multifaceted that I don't think that there's any one size fits all, and I also do not think that I have it all figured out at all. I don't think I'm a homeschooling expert. We just kind of learn to adapt. I think that, and I'll dive into this obviously, but that was one of the things when we started homeschooling that I kind of had to change my mindset about, is that the beginning of the school year and our plans at the beginning are not going to be the same as our plans at the end, or look the same at the end. And I think that's one of the really beautiful things, is that you can pivot your plans and your goals and your styles and strategies however you need. So I guess to begin with, I'll get a little bit into our backstory here. I always wanted to homeschool my kids. I went to public school, kindergarten through Christmas of my 9th grade year. And then I homeschooled in high school until the last semester of my senior year. I did dual enrollment at our local community college and homeschooled. And then I went back that last semester so I could graduate with my friends and have not that homeschoolers don't have a real high school graduation, but it certainly was not as mainstream when I was in school as it is now. So I went and graduated in public school just to have that experience, I guess. And so I do have a little bit of a background in homeschooling, and I guess outside of the box education. I really did love the dual enrollment process, earning college credits while you're still in high school. That just made sense to me. I was good in school but didn't love school, so if I could knock it out quickly, then that was my plan. So I really loved that option. And so when I had my children, I guess I hadn't really thought that far ahead. I was pretty young when I had my son. I was 23. And I just really hadn't thought that much about how I wanted to approach his education until the time came. And it just killed me to think about sending him off every day. Especially, I guess you don't realize how young 5 is until you have a 5-year-old, and it's just so young to me. And I already really had the strong desire in my heart to be a stay-at-home mom, and was working towards that, and was able to achieve that with my second child, my daughter. But with my son, I was still working full-time, and my husband had his background is traditional education, and he actually was an education major in college. And so he very much leaned toward the side of public education and felt that that was the right thing for us. So did not agree there. But we kind of compromised and sent our son in kindergarten to a really wonderful local charter school that we loved. And he had the best kindergarten teacher. I was actually just talking about her with a friend the other day, and she made such a great impact. She was just absolutely made for that job and made the transition so much easier. And I was able to volunteer in his classroom and be really involved. And so that softened the blow a little bit for me, but I still really just felt the pull to be more involved and more hands-on. And also it killed me to, wake up, not me wake up, but to wake him up super, super early in the morning and get him there. And then he was gone for 8 hours a day. And then when he came home, he was so just exhausted. I guess he had been overstimulated all day. He was done. By the time he came home, he had a terrible attitude, which I understand. But it was just so much for his little 5 and 6-year-old mind and body that it really put a strain on our relationship at home. Before he had gone, I had my daughter at this point, and she was almost 1, and he just really lost his patience with her. And when he came home, he wanted to be alone in his room. And so it was sad to me because I could really see the change in his behavior. And also, no matter how much I tried to stress to him that it was kindergarten and we're laid back here, he really, for whatever reason, had some anxiety about not being able to go to sleep at night, and was afraid that he was not going to get up in time the next morning. And I, told him it's okay. Don't just sleep as long as you want to sleep. It's kindergarten. I'll take you in when you get up. If that's the issue, just relax. And so it was just a lot of things that I think it was a lot for his 5-year-old mind to process. And so it killed me as a mom who really wanted him home anyway to send him away 8 hours a day. And then the time that I did have with him was really strained. So then in March of his kindergarten year, COVID happened. And I just remember, I guess I wasn't really watching the news because I had a 1-year-old and kindergartner and just was in my own little bubble. And I had volunteered in his classroom on a Thursday or a Friday, and I had just heard rumblings of, we're just going to keep an eye out for this bug that's going around. And then Monday school was canceled, and for the foreseeable future, and it just kept extending longer and longer. And I won't go into that whole whatever that season of life was, the black hole of all of that. But so his school switched to virtual, and I know that they did the best that they were prepared for, and I completely commend them for that. It was every morning we had a Zoom call, and it was just like a check-in in the classroom, check in with his friends, and we had some at-home work. And again, it's kindergarten, so it's very laid back in my mind, which has become more laid back to me now, now that I'm teaching it. But it was just going nowhere to me, and all of the things up in the air in the world, and lots of different aspects there, led my husband to coming to me and saying, I think if this continues on, we made it through virtual kindergarten for a couple of months. If this continues on, let's try homeschooling in first grade just to, have a hand in what's going on here and be a little bit more in control. And so we were on the same page. We tried homeschooling in first grade, and it was glorious. It was just such a good year. It was the young years where, schooling is a lot of fun. It's not as much stress, I think, anyway, because you can really focus on the fun activities, and we're not in, extremely difficult math and language concepts yet. But it was just such a fun year. So I had a baby, a 6-year-old, and that first year was just wonderful. We did outside school, and our schedules became ours again. By this time, I was a stay-at-home mom. Our schedules really became ours again. Our life became ours again. I wasn't driving an hour a day round trip. I wasn't spending, 30 minutes in the car rider line twice a day. And it was just, it was a really good year. And at that point, I just kept ordering curriculum every year, and now he is in 4th grade. So, it's just kind of evolved. We have revisited that topic again, but we've pretty much both been on the same page of we're taking it a year at a time, and for right now, this is what really works for our family. And it's also one of those things where I mentioned in the beginning, you have to find what fits your family. And for us, my husband's work schedule, it's a little bit more flexible now than it was then, but he works 3 weekends out of the month. And so his days off would be during the week, and our son would be in school when we did the charter school. And so he really didn't get to spend that much time with him. He didn't get to see him that much. And like I said, the time that he was home was kind of strained because he was just a stressed out little 5-year-old. And so the homeschool schedule has really been a beautiful thing for our family because we do have kind of my husband has a unique work schedule. So it's just been such a blessing to us. We are able to, I work from home now, and we're able to work around my work schedule and my husband's work schedule. And it's just been a beautiful thing. And I'm very excited to unpack that with you. So I will talk a little bit about that's our how we got here story. And one of the biggest questions that I get when I have people asking me about homeschool is, what curriculum do you use? And that is such a loaded question because I use a lot of different ones. This season of Homegrown Hopes is brought to you by the Holistic HOMESTEAD Conference. Have you ever dreamed of slowing down and becoming more intentional? Of not relying so heavily on the grocery store, but instead honing the skills to grow and preserve your own food and medicine? Have you yearned for a simpler way of life and a community to learn alongside? Then the Holistic Homestead Conference is for you. Nestled in the foothills of western North Carolina at Henry River Farms, this conference is a way to learn real-life homesteading skills in person and hands-on. We have a lineup of classes including functional medicine, home canning, family dairy, gardening, natural living, and so much more. And did I mention the farm-to-table lunch? VIP ticket holders will get to sit down with all of the instructors and enjoy a lunch prepared by a local chef, and it includes a hog that was actually raised on the farm where the conference is hosted. It doesn't get any fresher than this. Be sure to grab your VIP tickets now because space at the table is limited, but we would love to have you there with us. If you're interested in learning more about the Holistic Homestead Conference and getting your ticket for not just the classes but also our delicious farm-to-table lunch, then visit www.holistichomesteadconference.com or visit the link in our show notes and use code HOMEGROWN15 for 15% off of your ticket. There are a lot of different styles of homeschooling, and I think when I first started, there was so much information. It was kind of when homeschooling kicked off. I knew a little bit about it because, like I said, I was homeschooled, and I had been researching it before we did the charter school because I really was pushing my husband to let me homeschool anyway. So I had a little bit of information and had done my research on that, but it can be so overwhelming when you are looking at all of the different types and styles of homeschooling. And for me anyway, it kind of took the pressure off a little bit and made it more enjoyable to just say, I do not have to fit in a box. My child's learning style is not going to fit into a box. It's not going to stay the same. And I have the beautiful flexibility of being able to adapt to my children's learning style. So for the most part, I would say that our homeschool style is a Charlotte Mason type style. There's a lot of emphasis on really good literature, good music, really diving into that history, which I am such a history nerd, so I love that portion of schooling. And then we also have a lot of playtime, and that's screen-free playtime. We do some computer work, but it's really important to us, my husband and I, for the children to have time to explore and to be outside and to really have hands-on education and to be able to problem solve real life problems. So for us, that kind of looks like we do book work. We have, and I'll talk about which curriculums we use. But when the book work is over, our children also have responsibilities. We live on a farm. We grow, we have a garden, we have animals, and I work from home, and our family has a reclaimed wood business. So both of our children do have responsibilities in all of those aspects. My son loves to be outside working. He loves to weed eat, and he really thrives on hands-on manual hard work labor. He loves that. He's 10 years old, but he acts like he's a grown man. And sometimes that gets him in trouble with his mouth. But for the most part, I mean, it's just been a beautiful thing to see him have the opportunity to take a really active role in the responsibilities around the farm and the business and thrive in that. I mean, he went to work with my dad on a log building that they were salvaging a few weeks ago, and he got paid for his time. And my dad said, I'm telling you, that boy worked. He loaded the trailer. He was just, he was working like a grown man. And that praise and that responsibility and taking an active role in that was so rewarding to my son. That's something that he really thrives on. He just loves that. So I make sure in his schedule that he has the time to be outside working and playing. It's not all work, but he does love to work. But he has time to play outside. Just last week, he was down in the creek catching minnows, and he wanted to catch them and use them for bait for bigger fish. And his problem was that they were dying in the 5-gallon bucket. So I saw him go down through the woods with a plastic, 5-foot kiddie pool from last summer, PVC pipe, and a hacksaw. And I saw him going down through the woods. He carries a walkie-talkie, so we're always in touch wherever he is on the farm. And I was like, hey, just so you know, you have the freedom to build whatever you want, but you're going to clean it up at the end of this, And he was like, I got it. Yeah, I've got this good idea. And he rigged up basically a live bait tank out of that pool and the pond water and a whole intake system with the PVC. It was really impressive. And I was so proud of him, and he was so proud of himself. And just having the time freedom to go down in the woods and do that, and to use your mind to engineer something like that, I think that is invaluable. So that's something that's really important to us. My daughter is in kindergarten this year, and we kind of evolved. We started out thinking it was going to be a pre-K year, and she just really, really loves school and smoked through the pre-K that I had set up. So she is in kindergarten this year. And she really loves imaginative play. She loves to cook. So she helps me out in the kitchen. She absolutely loves to cook breakfast and to bake. And we incorporate that into our school time. We talk about, different ingredients and how they work together. She likes to come up with her own recipes, and we talk about measuring and incorporate that with math. And she has a children's cookbook that she reads. She's, learned to read now. So on top of curriculum, which I will talk about, hands-on real life learning is just completely invaluable to us. And we make sure to have time in our schedules for that. We also do team sports. So we play for our local city recreation department. We've also done gymnastics. We do horseback riding. We have horses here. Oh no. Okay, my internet cut out there for just a second, so I'm really hoping that the first half of this podcast recorded, or I may cry. But I was talking about we do team sports. We have played for the city rec. My daughter's done gymnastics. We have horses, and my son really loves horseback riding, and he's kind of transitioning into trying to be more competitive with that. And we've also played for our local county schools, which is a really neat part of homeschooling here. And it's not the same everywhere, but in our state, our county, homeschoolers can play public school sports. So that's a really cool thing. The children play instruments. So my daughter takes piano lessons. My son is part of an amazing program through our city recreation department, and it's called the Junior Appalachian Musicians. And every week, the students go and they have an instructor. It's a group style lesson, and they learn Appalachian folk music. And they have ukulele, fiddle, guitar, bass, mandolin, basically historic Appalachian instruments. And it is just the coolest program. I cannot sing its praises enough. We absolutely love it. And when my daughter's old enough, she's also going to be doing that program. So that is, and it's very, very affordable. So we do instruments. We have a homeschool group that meets on Fridays that I actually started, and I will probably at some point do a whole other episode about finding community in that aspect. But one thing that I did notice when I started homeschooling is I did have a lot of questions. And also just wanted to bounce ideas off of people. And I had several other friends who had started homeschooling at the same time. So we were constantly picking each other's brains and sharing what was working, what wasn't. And so it kind of evolved into a group meetup for the moms and the kids. So we were already getting together, and we just felt, one of my husband's biggest arguments for homeschooling was that the socialization argument. And I think that ship has probably sailed because we're so socialized that our schedule is full of social activities. But that was one of the things that was really important to him. So I started Our Homeschool group, and we do different activities. It's outside, free play. We do programs at our local state parks and museums and science centers and things like that. And it has just evolved into a wonderful little community. The children are growing up with close friends that they get to see and hang out with multiple times every week. And it's just such a beautiful thing. So that's a community that a friend and I helped to create. It's me and another friend. We started this group together, and it has just been invaluable to me on our homeschool journey, both for me and the children. So we do our homeschool meetup. We have group sports. We play instruments. Those are just a few of the social things that we do. We also are members of our local 4-H, which is just such a great program. Also, if you have not checked out your local 4-H, I guarantee you can find a group that fits your family's needs and your children's interests. There is just a whole world of really fun hands-on learning and activities through 4-H. I grew up very active in 4-H in our county, and so I really have a soft spot for that, and we love 4-H. So lots of socialization happening. So we'll dive in, I guess, to my curriculum choices. And I will say they have evolved over the years, just like I mentioned, my children's learning style has evolved. One thing that we have stuck with basically from the beginning is I love a curriculum called The Good and the Beautiful. They have math, language arts, science, lots of really beautiful lessons that are hands-on and include games and are broken up into really easy to complete chunks, especially for each child's age and learning level. And they do a really wonderful job of interweaving geography and math and world studies and history and social studies and also weaving it into a Christian worldview, which was something that was important to our family. So we use the good and the beautiful for our core subjects, for math and language arts, and I have really been pleased with that. For reading, like beginner reading, learning to read, I use a book, and I used it for my son. I use it for my daughter now. It's called Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. And I will say, I've learned as I have gotten older and learned and homeschooled and have more years under my belt. I did this with my son when he was 4 and 5, and I was way too gung-ho about it because I knew that he was going to be in a public education setting. And I just had it in my mind that I really wanted to be the one who taught him to read. I really wanted that. It was something that was important to me. So I was probably way too strict, and we're going to finish this lesson even when we were struggling. And could I go back and tell myself now, I would say, ease up, lady. He's 5 years old. He's going to learn to read. Calm down. So with my daughter, I've been a whole lot more relaxed, and they are two completely different children when it comes to their interest and their approach to learning. But with her, I have been a whole lot more relaxed in those lessons, and she also is very interested in learning to read. So it's been a much easier process with a lot less tears. So I love that book. I would recommend with any curriculum that you choose to just don't be afraid to sit it down for the day, because I have a dear homeschooling mama friend, and she is always wonderful at reminding me that the most important thing that we're doing here is building relationships. And there are going to be some really strained days in homeschooling. Let me tell you, I know I have had my share of rough days, but I think maybe, and obviously you can't sit it down every day. There has to be some accountability and some, we're going to finish this, but knowing when it is okay to step away for just a little while and come back when our hearts are in the right place, that is something that I've definitely developed and gotten better at as I've done this for more years. And it makes life so much better and helps to build those relationships with our family and with our children. So we use the good and the beautiful for those core subjects. I mentioned earlier that we kind of have a Charlotte Mason leaning style. I use a resource called Ambleside online, and it is based off of the Charlotte Mason learning styles, and it has a reading list recommendation for history and for science and for literature, and I have used that throughout the years. I will say, when my son was in first grade and I had a newborn, it was just way too much reading for me to do every single day. And once your children can read, the world changes a little bit. I'll just say, when you have independent readers, a whole new world opens up for you. But we still do most of our Ambleside readings together at this point, and we just do it family style learning. So we have our history books that we read, science that we dive into, and we have been doing that together. And we really love those. And I will also add a disclaimer. I do not check every single reading off of the Ambleside list. I kind of pick and choose, and we see what our interest level is. And also, one of the things that I noticed about this program, am I recording here? Yes, okay. I'm sorry, we're having some really patchy internet today. My screen just flashed at me, so I wanted to make sure that this was still recording and I wasn't just talking to myself here. One thing that I have done that I have noticed is the Charlotte Mason style and Ambleside curriculum really focuses on the classics, and that language can be really wordy and really hard to understand. And in the beginning, I kind of just skimmed over it because I felt like it was too much for my children. And looking back now, I'm not sure that was the best thing to do, because I think that kids pick up on so much more than we give them credit for. And it just might take a little longer. You might have to be really intentional and slow down and explain a lot of words and dive into the language. But I do think that by using those classic literature readings as your daily, family style readings, it has really helped to expand my children's language and their vocabulary. So I would recommend, I don't recommend anything. Here's what I do. I go through, I know that we're not going to do every single thing, but my son also, since he's 10 and my daughter is 5, he is able to facilitate some of the readings, and he really likes being able to do that. So I am able to delegate some of that to him while I am still in the room working on things. But for the most part, I really do love all of the Ambleside readings. We've enjoyed that. Another part of our curriculum is Treehouse, Schoolhouse. She is another North Carolina homeschooling mom, and I followed her very early on in my homeschooling journey, and she has just been such an invaluable resource to me, both as far as homeschool curriculum, but also on the mothering side of this because it can really be exhausting. It is a lot of work. Homeschooling your children is a full-time job if you do it well. And I just cannot sing her praises enough. So Treehouse Schoolhouse is the name of her website. She has multiple different curriculum options there. We started out doing the nature study, which is a really beautiful curriculum that incorporates science and art and literature, and it's all in one really easy open and go setup, and it can be done family style. So it has just been a game changer as far as not really having to do a ton of prep, but getting a lot out of the time spent. So we've done her nature study. We have done her Rooted, which is a family Bible study curriculum. It's beautiful. Every year we do her Easter study, her Christmas study, and it has really shaped the way that I homeschool my children. And I am very thankful to have found her as a resource and connected with her in real life and asked her questions. And she just does such a beautiful job with everything that she does. So go give her a follow. I will put a link to everything that I'm mentioning here in the show notes, by the way. Ambleside and Treehouse Schoolhouse and the Good and the Beautiful, all the curriculums that I am mentioning, I will have linked below. So don't feel like you have to write all of this down. But definitely go and give her a follow. Let's see. What else did I want to talk about? I think I spoke about how, for us, the most important thing is relationship. And that's something that if you are checking things off a to-do list can kind of go to the wayside. I have to rein myself in a little bit and remind myself that my relationship with my kids is more important than getting all of my tasks checked off. So we focus on that. We focus on being flexible. I find that I'm much more stressed when I have a huge to-do list and we don't get it all done. Then I'm stressed out and I have some imaginary, accountability in my head that just snowballs things. So being able to be flexible and realize, this math lesson today is a little harder. It might take us 2 days to get through this one lesson. It's not the end of the world. One way that we've been really flexible in this season of life is that we're in the process of building a home. And so there have been days where my husband and I both have to be out there on the site and doing the work. And so we've been flexible this season in our homeschool studies because being able to be hands-on and contribute to the home that you're building is learning. And being able to see how it's all laid out and the incredible math that goes into building a house and just really being involved in that process is invaluable. So we have had days where the job site, the build site, was our homeschool. Now that being said, we are able to have those flexible days because we do pretty much follow a year-round school schedule. So we do lessons Monday through Thursday. We have our group meetups on Fridays where we are often doing something educational then as well. We do take a few weeks off at Christmas time and around New Year's because that is a really, really busy time of year for me and my business. And I know that I'm not schooling well during December. So we take some time off in December and early January. And then, we have family vacations throughout the year where we take the time off, but we also have hands-on learning while we're on vacation. If we still read good books and we're still studying the world around us and going to science centers and museums in different areas. And that is learning all around us. So we do loosely follow or for the most part, follow a year-round school schedule. And that's what gives us the flexibility to take off, a day during the week if we need to, or a couple weeks for vacation, things like that. So I think if you are considering homeschooling, or maybe you're struggling in homeschooling and you're already doing it, remember that it's okay to be flexible and give yourself some grace and give your children some grace because everyone learns at different paces and our homeschool looks different in every season of the year and every season of life. It has adapted and changed and evolved so much over the last 4 years that we've been doing this. And at this point, I know that is inevitable. And it's also a beautiful thing that we're able to do that. But if you're considering this, I think that I would consider your why behind it. Is it, and it could be anything, every family is different, but really I think having your heart why you want to do this and make sure that it's for the right reasons, because it will be very hard. And I think that you have to have a really strong conviction on why you're doing what you're doing in order to get through it. But it's such a beautiful, beautiful gift. It has been for our family. So that is, I think, all that I have in my notes to say about homeschooling. I really could talk about this all day long. Like, I could do just a whole episode only on one curriculum that we use. I could talk about Treehouse, Schoolhouse, Nature Study for 30 minutes right now. So I won't run on too long, but I am always happy to answer homeschool questions. If you want to shoot me a private message, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I have my email and all of those socials in the show notes here. Also, if you enjoyed this, it would mean so much to me if you would take the time to follow the show on whatever platform you're listening, and also leave a quick review. That matters in the world of podcasting. It actually makes a huge difference on who gets to see the show. So by you leaving a review, and also maybe sending this episode to a friend who is in the homeschool trenches or who's considering it, just by sharing it, it really does help me out, and helps to justify the time that I sit here talking to myself on a microphone. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I guess I will be back here next Tuesday to chat some more. Talk to you soon.
Hey, Mom.